People often say, kindness doesn't cost a thing. But for Tiara Johnson, a single black mother living in Atlanta, Georgia, kindness that day nearly cost her a bowl of pho for dinner. And her job. She just didn't expect that the fateful night at the small eatery, Mama Tran's Pho Nominal, would mark the beginning of a chain of events that would change her life and an entire community. 11:45 p.m. A cold wind slipped through the cracks in the door, while Tiara swiftly poured more hot water into the ginger teapot for the only remaining customer. She had been on her feet for 10 hours straight, her legs aching as if she'd just performed her grandma's traditional jazz dance from back in '68. Her stomach was on strike, but her mind was still on her baby little Jaden, 10 years old, who dreamed of becoming an NBA player but was currently playing basketball with a grapefruit gifted by the neighbor. "Mom, can I go to basketball camp this summer? Coach said I shoot hoops like Shaquille O'Neal, even though I'm only as tall as the dining table. Summer camp cost $700. With the overtime pay at the pho shop, Tiara calculated she'd need to work 3 straight weeks without a break, and might even have to sell her freshly done Hello Kitty-themed nail set from the day before. The doorbell jingled. A customer walked in tall, wearing a baseball cap, hoodie pulled low, walking like he'd just stepped out of a messy press conference held by a troubled basketball star. She was about to switch on her "Sorry Kitchen's Closed" mode, just as instructed by her grumpy manager Chad, a white guy who always claimed to be racially neutral, but somehow never served black customers after 11 p.m. But then Tiara paused. The man's eyes looked sad, the kind of sad you'd expect from someone who'd been booed by Lakers fans or had just read this month's utility bill. "Come in, but order quick," she said, flashing a charming smile like she hadn't been on aching feet for 10 hours straight. "Kitchen's about to close, but I can sneak in an order for you as long as you promise not to tell my shrimp-brained manager." The man smiled, his voice deep and warm. "Thank you. I just need a quiet corner and a bowl of pho." Tiara handed the menu to the customer, along with a subtle glance and a smile that said, "I'm breaking the rules, so eat quick, okay? Special pho," she said, "extra beef meatballs, tendon, tripe. And if you're not allergic, I highly recommend a bit of hoisin sauce. It won't save your love life, but it might just save your soul." The man chuckled softly. "Sounds amazing. I'll take exactly that. Oh, and an iced coffee with condensed milk. I've heard rumors this place brews it stronger than a Kardashian family drama." Tiara laughed. "If I had $1 every time I heard that, I'd already have enough to send my son to basketball camp." He tilted his head. "Your son plays ball?" "Plays" is a fancy way of putting it. Right now, he's practicing 3-pointers in the backyard with a grapefruit because I can't afford a real ball yet." The man nodded slowly. Having a dream is the best thing in the world. As Tiara turned to place the order, she caught a glimpse of the baseball cap tilting up just enough for the light from the restaurant to fall across the man's face. Her heart skipped a beat. Those eyes, that nose bridge, the closely shaved beard, the slightly high cheekbones, then the voice, and especially those huge hands, like they'd once palmed an entire opposing team for a slam dunk. Dear Lord above, wasn't that Michael Jordan? But Tiara didn't show a flicker of recognition, a skill she had mastered after years of serving bougie customers in Atlanta while still having to act like she was Miss Congeniality. "Your food's almost ready," she said, as if she hadn't just realized she was serving the sports icon of an entire generation of black Americans. She brought out the steaming bowl of pho, along with the iced coffee, which trembled slightly just like her heart in that moment. "Enjoy, mysterious stranger," Thank you, Michael said, glancing at her name tag. Tiara. Then he looked directly at her, with eyes that didn't belong to a superstar, but to someone who knew what it was like to be judged solely by the color of their skin. You didn't have to help me. It's past service hours. She shrugged. I've been denied service just because I walked into a fancy restaurant wearing my work uniform. I swear, steak doesn't know how to be racist. Only servers do. Michael smiled, half grateful, half curious. You live from the heart. Not many do that. Tiara gave a small nod and turned to wipe down a table. In her mind, she thought, yeah, I live from the heart, but I sure hope this heart helps me pay the gas bill this month. He ate in silence, occasionally nodding and sipping the faux broth like he had just rediscovered the soul of his childhood in that steaming bowl. When he left, he placed several $100 bills beneath the empty bowl. 5 of them. Tiara walked over, eyes wide. Oh my God! This is a tip, Michael said, gently pulling his cap down. For you and for the kid with the grapefruit three-pointer. Before she could say a word, he was already out the door, stepping into the black SUV waiting outside. The car disappeared down the empty street. Tiara stood there, holding the stack of cash, her mind still trying to process what had just happened. She only knew one thing. Basketball camp this year had just found its sponsor. And Chad's no service after 11:30 rule had just become the biggest joke of the day. The next morning, Tiara dragged herself into the restaurant with dark circles under her eyes, like she had just survived a marathon crying contest sponsored by Netflix. But her mood was lighter than ever. In her handbag were 5 crisp $100 bills, still smelling as fresh as a bottle of temporary happiness perfume. Mama, can we sign up for summer camp tonight? Little Khalil's voice echoed in her head, like the soundtrack of hope. Tiara was smiling when Tiara, office, now. She turned to see Chad, the bald, white manager with a glare like he'd just caught someone stealing spoons from the restaurant, pointing toward the office like a hall monitor who'd missed breakfast. The moment she stepped inside, she saw the computer screen playing the security footage from the night before. Her, handing over the menu. Her, serving pho. Her, smiling. Chad looked at her like she had just served bin Laden a bowl of special pho after hours. You know the rule. No service after 11:30. Why did you break it? Tiara took a deep breath and calmly replied, he was hungry and polite. 2 things incredibly rare in customers after 11 p.m. Politeness doesn't cover insurance if something happens, Chad snapped. Tiara, this isn't the first time you've been flexible. You gave donuts to a homeless man. You gave Miss Johnson extra soup and didn't charge her. What do you think, this is a charity church? She looked him straight in the eye. No, but I think this is America where kindness shouldn't be punished. Chad let out a dry laugh. America or not, you're fired. Hand over your name tag. Your final paycheck will be mailed in 2 weeks. Tiara froze. 8 years of loyalty. Washing dishes until 2 a.m., putting out grease fires. Covering double shifts when Chad was off meditating in Las Vegas. And now, she lost it all over 1 bowl of pho and a stranger in a baseball cap. Stepping out of the restaurant, Tiara walked toward her car, her hand still clutching her handbag. She sat in silence, staring blankly through the windshield. Chad's reflection appeared in the rearview mirror like a postmodern curse. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated for a second, then answered, Hello, may I speak with Ms. Tiara Holloway? Yes? Who's this? We're calling from the office of Mr. Michael Jordan. He'd like to invite you to meet with him this morning. The location is the headquarters of the MJ Foundation Youth Center in Atlanta. Would you be able to arrive within the hour? Tiara said nothing. Her heart pounded like a lion dance drum on Lunar New Year's Day. I'm sorry. Mr. Who? Michael Jordan, the man you served last night. Tiara glanced at the empty pho bowl sitting in the trash can near the restaurant door. Dear God, it was real. Yes, I'll come, but I'm still in my uniform. Even better. He said, I want to see her exactly as she was the first time. The call ended. Tiara leaned forward, resting her arms on the steering wheel. She let out a laugh, half disbelief, half anxiety. Dear Lord, I don't know if this is a blessing or a psychological test. 1 hour later, she stood in front of the grand building bearing the MJ Foundation logo. The revolving doors opened like they were ushering her into a future she'd never dared to dream of. And for the first time in her life, a black waitress walked into the office of a black billionaire not to serve pho, but to be invited to do something greater. The elevator doors opened on the 42nd floor. The scent of polished wood and luxury cologne lingered softly in the air, a quiet signal. This was not a place that sold pho. An older black woman, elegant, poised, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, stepped out from behind the reception desk. Her hair was tied up in a high bun, her stride precise, like a general on a mission. "You're Tiara Holloway?" she asked, smiling. "Yes, I think so," Tiara mumbled, still clutching her drawstring bag with one torn strap. "I'm Marlene, executive assistant. Follow me." Tiara followed like a kid walking into her first parent-teacher meeting. She passed a series of framed photos on the wall. MJ hugging children. MJ with the president. MJ cooking soup? Probably photoshopped. The office doors opened. A spacious room with a sweeping city view, straight out of a Marvel movie. Standing in the center of that room, Michael Jordan. No cap, no hoodie, no dim restaurant lighting. He was still tall, but unlike the night before, he was the MJ. The real one, with eyes sharp yet warm, the kind that looked like they'd play a quick pickup game with you, then fund your startup all in the same afternoon. Thank you for coming, Tiara. She tried to stay composed, but honestly, part of her brain was screaming, "Oh my God, I served pho to an NBA legend. Yes, thank you for giving me the chance to speak. And I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. Though, to be fair, with your cap pulled down that low, who could?" Michael chuckled. "That was the point. I didn't go to the pho shop to be recognized. I went to observe." Tiara frowned. Observe? What, exactly? He sat down at the conference table and gestured to the chair across from him. "Take a seat. Let me tell you something." Tiara gave a sheepish smile. "You met me while I was breaking restaurant policy." "No," he interrupted. "I met you putting compassion above the fear of losing your job. You served me like I was anybody. Not MJ, not a millionaire, just a hungry man. You gave me pho, but what you really gave me was faith. Faith that genuinely good people still exist." Tiara swallowed hard. Her eyes began to sting. "You want me to work with you?" she asked, half doubtful, half stunned. MJ pulled a thick folder from the drawer and placed it in front of her. The cover page read, "Tiara Holloway, Youth Program Director, MJ Foundation." Salary? 3 times the total income from both of her current jobs combined. Benefits? Full health insurance. A college scholarship for Khalil. Bonus? Full authority to build a sports program for black youth in West Atlanta, the very neighborhood she grew up in. "If you need more time to think," Michael began. "No, I mean, Yes, I accept, Tiara said immediately, unless the contract includes a clause that says I have to give up pho. Michael laughed out loud. On the contrary, first week, I need you to recreate that exact bowl of pho for me. Marlene peeked in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's an 8-year-old boy in the waiting area. Name's Khalil. He just announced, if my mom's the boss, I need to inspect the meeting room first. MJ looked at Tiara, raising an eyebrow. Natural leadership. I like that. She stepped out into the hallway and saw Khalil sitting there, wearing mismatched sandals, nibbling a sandwich, gazing out at the city like a miniature CEO. Tiara walked over and hugged him tight. Khalil, Mommy's got a new job. What is it, Mom? I'm going to help hundreds of other kids play basketball, just like you. Does that include summer camp? It includes summer camp, winter camp, and year-round camp. The story wasn't over. But from that moment on, a single black mother once looked down on for breaking the rules out of kindness stepped onto the stage of her own life for the first time, with the spotlight shining directly on her heart. The next morning, Justina woke up feeling like she'd just lived through a nightmare mixed with a sitcom. Her head still ached from a night of crying, laughing, and mentally calculating whether that $500 should go toward the electric bill or finally get Devante a proper haircut. As she poured cereal for Devante, who sat on the chair swinging his legs, wearing a basketball outfit so washed out, the Nike logo now looked like a pigeon. The phone rang. Unknown number. Probably another spam call trying to sell me dental insurance, she muttered. But then, for some reason, maybe a hunch, maybe just curiosity, she picked up. Hello, Ms. Justina Howard. I'm calling from the Jordan Impact Foundation. Mr. Michael Jordan would like to meet with you this morning, if you're available to come to our downtown Chicago office. She nearly dropped the milk carton. Wait a minute. He called him me? The tall guy who ate 2 servings of chicken and waffles last night? Yes, that's him. This isn't some kind of prank, is it? There's no hidden camera, right? We're very serious, Ms. Howard. Mr. Jordan would like to thank you and has a special proposal. Would you be able to come within the next hour? Justina looked down at her Mickey Mouse pajamas and the messy bun on her head that now resembled a bird's nest. Probably, if I can shave my legs and find a pair of shoes without holes. An hour and a half later, a bit delayed because someone brought a pig onto the train, Justina stepped into the Jordan Foundation building. She wore the only business dress she still owned from a job interview back in 2012, a little tight, but surprisingly flattering. The lobby was massive, with marble floors so shiny she had to walk like a ninja to avoid slipping. A receptionist smiled with polished professionalism. You must be Ms. Justina? Please, head up to the 29th floor. Mr. Jordan is expecting you. When the meeting room doors opened, the Michael Jordan stood up, smiling warmly as if the two of them had been gym class buddies back in the day. Thank you for coming, Justina. Last night, you gave me a wonderful meal. But more than that, you gave me the gift of feeling like a normal person. No one called me a legend. No one asked for a selfie. You just asked if I wanted more syrup. I'm truly grateful for that. Justina scratched her neck, trying not to let her face collapse under the weight of pure shock. Thank you too, for the tip. I was gonna use it to get my boy a pair of shoes that don't squeak like a beatbox every time he walks. Jordan laughed, then slid a folder across the table toward her. This is why I asked you here today. She opened it and read, Position, Director of Community Programs, salary $85,000 year, full benefits, scholarship for dependents, free lifetime gym membership. Justina looked up, her eyes wide like she'd just seen Beyoncé playing dominoes with Obama. "You're serious?" Jordan nodded. "We need people like you, people who are real, who understand the community, and who aren't afraid to step up when the right thing needs to be done. You have something no one at Harvard or Yale can teach: compassion without a deadline." Justina sat there, still holding the folder, her eyes fixed on the words $85,000, year like they might leap off the page and run away if she blinked. In her mind was a chaotic symphony of hope, doubt, and a touch of fear called, "Am I really worthy?" "Sir," she said, her voice slightly trembling, I'm just a single mom working 3 shifts to afford milk and toilet paper that doesn't scrape your skin. I've never run a program, never stood in front of a crowd except for that one time I called out the wrong table number and got yelled at by a customer." Jordan tilted his head, a glimmer of humor in his eyes. "You just described exactly why you're the perfect person for this job." He stood up and walked to the tall window, gazing out at the city. "We don't need another person who knows how to say the right things on PowerPoint. We need someone like you. Someone who's split her meal with a homeless man without needing recognition. Someone who's taught her kid how to stand up rather than complain." Justina went quiet. She thought of Devante, of how he had practiced his shots on a hoop tied to a flame tree in the public park. She remembered the laughter of the kids when she secretly slipped them an extra muffin, the old men who called her a ray of sunshine in a cold city. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, but I have one condition." Jordan smiled. "I'm listening. This program needs to include scholarships for the kids the system forgot. The children of moms like me, dads in halfway houses, kids nobody thinks will ever amount to anything." Jordan nodded slowly, his gaze softening. "Then, Ms. Justina, we have ourselves a deal." 3 days later, Justina walked into the headquarters of the Jordan Foundation wearing a new pair of shoes, snagged during an end-of-season sale, and a mustard yellow blazer that was maybe a bit too loud per Devante's advice. "Mom, you have to look like a boss, not like a cookie lady." She smiled, standing in front of the elevator, feeling like she was about to step into a whole new game, not to serve food anymore, but to serve dreams. Devante came with her that day, backpack in hand, eyes shining at the thought that his mom was about to help launch a basketball training center for underprivileged kids, a place where he could practice without worrying about stray cats stealing his ball. When the elevator doors opened, Jordan was already waiting. "Welcome back," he said, extending his hand. "Director Howard." Justina shook his hand, eyes fixed on the screen behind him, where the words lit up. "Justina Howard, Director of Community Impact. Where kindness becomes the game plan." 3 months later, the first community center transformed from an abandoned donut shop in a forgotten neighborhood officially opened its doors. The smell of fryer oil was long gone. Now it was the scent of basketballs, laughter, and the thunderous sound of dreams being launched into hoops. Inside, there was a basketball training court, a learning zone, lockers labeled with each kid's name, and, most notably, a free vending machine that worked only if you made a promise to do something kind that day. Jordan stood on stage, wearing a suit but still sporting his signature baseball cap. Holding a mic, he gestured toward Justina. "I once had a dream, but then I met a woman who turned kindness into a game plan. Here she is. The woman who turned fried chicken and compassion into a social movement." The crowd burst into laughter. Justina stepped onto the stage, mic trembling slightly in her hand. Devante sat in the front row, eyes shining like stars. "I'm no superhero, I don't wear a cape, just a uniform with a ketchup stain that never comes out, she said, drawing laughter from the audience. But I believe in one thing. If you're kind when no one's watching, one day the whole world will. A week later, social media exploded with the hashtag Justina effect. People everywhere started sharing photos. A teacher in Chicago staying after school for free tutoring. A bus driver in Dallas giving a free ride to an elderly woman because she looked like my mom. A 12-year-old white boy in Utah writing a handwritten apology to his black classmate for making fun of his hairstyle and adding a promise, "Tomorrow I'm coming to school in cornrows, so I know how it feels." The Jordan Foundation Center began receiving funding from all over. There were even rumors that Netflix wanted to buy the story rights. Justina hasn't decided yet. She's still busy wrapping homemade snacks for the kids' weekend event. One afternoon, Justina received a strange email. Attached was an old photo. Brad, the manager who once fired her, standing next to a white girl around 10 years old, wearing a worn-out basketball jersey. The caption read, "This is my daughter, Ellie. I was too busy enforcing rules to remember the human heart." Attached was an application to join the community center network with a pledge, willing to volunteer to clean toilets every week if needed. Justina smiled and forwarded the email to Jordan, writing only one sentence: "Everyone deserves a second chance." 6 months later, from Chicago to Atlanta, from Detroit to Oakland, community centers began to spring up. They were built out of old diners, abandoned warehouses, even tucked inside mini shopping malls, thanks to the miraculous approval of property owners whose kids had suddenly received scholarships from the Devante program. The official name of the initiative, Project D, Dreams, Dribbles, and Donuts, Dreams, Basketball Dribbles, and Donuts Sprinkled with Hope. One day, Devante, now 13, asked his mom, while helping in the kitchen, wrapping pastries and rehearsing his TEDx Kids speech, "Mom, why do you never lock our back door?" Justina looked at him, wiped her hands, and smiled. "Because somewhere out there, there's a kid who needs a place to walk into and start again." The boy nodded and wrote that line down as the closing sentence of his speech. And Justina, in her flour-dusted shirt, as usual, turned back to the kitchen to keep doing what she did best, turning kindness into an open door. This story could end here, but the Justina effect doesn't. Because sometimes a plate of fried chicken after closing time isn't just dinner. It's a ticket to a whole new life. Not just for one person, but for an entire generation. Do you remember Justina's final promise? "If someone believes in me, then I'll be the one who believes in those no one else will. And you? You could be the next Justina. Or at the very least, you could let someone order extra chicken after hours."